Happy New Year and welcome to the CORY MORGAN Show 2026. And it looks like we won't be starved for any news this year. I guess last year was similar. We kicked it off with the resignation of Prime Minister Trudeau so that Central Canada can just put a smarter, older Liberal in power rather than the last one. But now we've got madness down south of the border with President Trump and Venezuela and Greenland and who knows what else is going on. Good stuff up here on our side of the border. The referendum is almost a sure thing to be happening in 2026. I mean, how the referendum ends, well, that's a lot to be decided yet, but there's going to be one. That means a whole year of discussing Alberta's place within Canada, or at least the better part of it. This is a live show, guys. Good to see you checking in. Prayer Handle and Paradoxy. Use those comments, discuss things, send questions my way, my guest's way. And I got a guest coming, Mitch Sylvester of the Alberta Prosperity Project, on this referendum petition. And it's actually through stayfreealberta.com. There's a lot of bureaucracy and headaches involved with this whole thing, petitioning to get it done right. And they're just trying to really make sure they, again, cross all those T's, dot those I's, and make sure there's no way or reason a person can stop that referendum from coming. All right, well, let's talk about something else that's going to be big this year, and it's big every year. We got to talk more about it. The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Yeah, UNDRIP. I like that. It's got drip in it. Probably, it talks about how good that is. It was a resolution adopted by the United Nations in 2007. Canada was still under sane government at that time. It was one of the few UN members actually voted against it. But Canada shredded those pretenses of sanity in 2015 and endorsed UNDRIP in 2016. Now the nation's paying a terrible price for that endorsement. The UNDRIP is not legally binding. Its principles, though, have contributed to the catastrophic Indigenous policy Canada's been enduring the last 10 years. UNDRIP isn't just an aspirational document that can be ignored. Provinces actually have to get up now and denounce this thing, openly oppose recognizing the plan. This document entrenches a sense of victimhood and entitlement within a minority population that's already a socioeconomic basket case within Canada. Reserve corruption and appalling living conditions are never going to be addressed in a country binding itself with the absurd mandates of UNDRIP. To begin with, UNDRIP calls for the full autonomy and self-government of Indigenous people on reserves. Oh, that sounds dandy. Except that all efforts of self-government within Canada's reserve system have been an abject failure. UNDRIP inspired Trudeau to remove the provisions for fiscal oversight on native reserves, and the results have been predictable. Blank checks given to bands have not led to improvement of any conditions on the reserves, except for those sitting on top of the local hierarchy. People are living in squalor while a bandit class lives the high life, and there's no way to correct the issue. Giving all the authority to the reserves for self-government while giving them none of the responsibility for it has failed the people living on the reserves and the people off the reserves who have to pay the bills. UNDRIP affirms Indigenous people's rights to traditional lands and resources. The traditional land that refers to every square inch in North America. This PAP has led to the crippling of economic development in the resource sectors across the country. Indigenous leaders feel they have the right to block all developments while extorting fees for any developments that go ahead. It's killed employment opportunities for Indigenous people in remote regions, and it's hampered Canada's productivity. Wondering why our GDP per capita is in free fall when compared to other developed countries? See UNDRIP. The belief that Indigenous people have the right to call all traditional lands has also led to the endless and massive land claims, which are tearing the lower mainland of BC to shreds. People are suddenly finding their homes and businesses valueless as banks refuse to refinance mortgages and investors bail out from developments in Richmond. Things are only going to get worse, guys. Canada endorsed UNDRIP, but BC, they went a step further and enshrined their own Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People Act, DRIPA. Again, more drips. With the power of legislation behind it, UNDRIP is creating a catastrophe in BC. The Cowichan ban created a garbage dump, which is going to cost tens of millions of tax dollars to clean up, while non-native people are being banned from provincial parks. This is all from that crap, guys. What do you expect, though? When a race of people has been granted rights based on ancestors theoretically walking lands 1,000 years ago and having a right to self-govern without responsibility. Canada foolishly entrenched Indigenous rights into the Constitution, which is bad enough. But at least Section 35 of the Constitution only contains an obligation to consult Indigenous people before doing anything. Activists have been wrongly claiming that the requirement is for consultation is actually one for consent. Now, UNDRIP does expressly say any state must get Indigenous consent before pretty much doing anything. Consent's becoming nearly impossible to attain as the demands for payoffs and extended consultation continue to escalate. Canada's Indian Act is a vile piece of racist legislation that must be scrapped if we want to pretend to be a country that values equal rights for all races. For politicians to find the courage to take such a course of action, though, the nation must embrace a change of attitude when it comes to these Indigenous bans. We got to stop pretending we can have a functional country when 5% of the population holds a veto authority over the nation, especially when the authority is based on race. The world is supposed to have grown beyond that. To begin that journey to changing the course of the country, though, we got to start actively opposing the empowerment of a racial minority over the majority. Nothing less than full equality of status and authority between all races can be accepted. That means not just ignoring UNDRIP, we have to denounce it and any other foreign-crafted initiatives that try to divide our nation based on race. The passive and cowardly approach of letting things slide is no longer acceptable. So yeah, people, UNDRIP sounds boring and dry, but you know what? Got to get rid of it. All right, that's what's kicking off the year for me. Let's see what else is going on in the newsroom with our news editor, Dave Nealer. How's it going?
Good. Happy New Year.
Yes, and to you.
Have a good holiday season.
That was pretty good.
I see you're almost packed up to get ready to go out of town. You got your hitch in the truck.
Pretty close, yeah. I'm still sore from that. Those fifth wheel hitches are brutal, but I'm cheap.
Well, that's good. And you've doing your Art Bell Memorial Tour to the desert?
We will be doing some shows from the desert in Arizona in a few weeks, yes.
Okay, you're not changing the time to midnight or anything, are you?
No, I won't do the night shift like Bell used to, but I've already got some tips on perhaps we'll have some interesting subject matter coming from out in those where the hills have eyes.
Excellent. Well, you're certainly right. The news isn't stopping. Holy cow. We just got the big report into the city's water main woes, and it offers a scathing look at various administrations and throughout the last 20 years. They basically says they've known it's going to be a looming disaster for 20 years and didn't do anything to try and stop it, and makes a whole bunch of recommendations. And our City Hall reporter, Mike Thomas, will be getting some reaction on that. We got rioting breaking out in Minneapolis. This comes after an ICE agent was almost run over and shot a woman to death who was driving the car. Some amazing scenes coming out of there. Drama on the high seas this morning with U.S. troops backed by British help took over a Russian-flagged oil tanker that had escaped from Venezuelan waters, and they captured it somewhere between Iceland and the coast of Scotland. And they also took over another ship somewhere in the Caribbean, and that's being diverted to the United States. These recall petitions, Corey, and we've predicted that they ain't going anywhere. And the organizer of the one to recall Dimitri Nicolaitis, Calgary UCP MLA, admits basically she's going to fail. She's only got 6,000 signatures and needs to get another 10,000 in the next 2 weeks for it to become valid. So I don't think that's going anywhere. And today's story on useless government spending by the Liberals. They're spending $1.7 million on, quote, indigenous climate projects, unquote, in Colombia and Zambia.
Well, that's money well spent, isn't it? It just
Zambia, like, come on.
Well, ironically, that ties right back into that UNDRIP crap, right? You know, countries are all supposed to pour into these indigenous things. Well, all we know that probably a few tribal leaders in Zambia and Colombia got very, very rich, and maybe they put a windmill somewhere.
Maybe they did, eh? Let's hope for the best for those good people of Zambia.
Well, we only have, 5 or so months before Tax Freedom Day comes along. So these are the things to keep in mind, that all these things that June taking your money from you. And
the left wing loses their minds when they say we're going to cut off foreign spending. But some of it is needed. Most of it is not. Indigenous stuff in Zambia is an example of wasted foreign money spending, surely.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes they invest in rocket launchers and helicopters and things like that so that they can better entrench their governance methods out there. So some would see that as a positive. The left apparently loves dictators, looking at their response to the deposing of Maduro.
Exactly. Make sure you, before you leave, enter the new Western Standard newsroom pool. We're taking bets on who Trump will attack next.
Oh,
And it's everything. You got Canada, you got Greenland. I myself have picked Iran.
yeah. Well, it's a big world, but
It's a big
Iran will
world.
target not too much sympathy if you go.
You know, you got Cuba potential, Colombia's a potential. There's no place off limits to Mr. Trump.
Well, that's funny with, and Iran has got the demonstrations going on right now from women and so on, and the riots are happening. It looks like the people might be getting to rise up. Some people are paying attention finally, like John Cleese. Love the man, love, the work of his past, but his leftism since then as well, typical celebrity garbage. But even he's been ripping into the BBC saying, why are you not covering anything in Iran? What on earth is going on?
There's some amazing scenes coming out on Twitter. It looks like rebel forces have gained control of 2 cities now. All sorts of money being bet that Israel is going to attack before the end of the month again. So the news just never stops, Corey. It never stops.
Well, it keeps us working anyways. We'll
Keeps us
find some good
unemployed.
news things to report on eventually, too.
Sure, plane lands safely at Calgary Airport.
Right on. All right, except everybody had sore knees because it was a WestJet flight.
There you go. There you go. That video today prompted me to go and select a seat for an Easter flight out there. So I didn't want to sit in that row.
No, it looks pretty brutal. There we get I almost said the M word. Little people can book those seats at a discounted rate, perhaps. There's ways we can work around.
You can't use the M word, just so you know.
Yes, well, I didn't. But I'm thinking it.
There you go.
All right, thanks, Dave.
You bet.
All right. It is our news editor, Dave Naylor. And yeah, that newsroom is hustling. I can hear him barking across the room to David number 2 to make sure to get on those stories and get them rolling. And this is where I nag and do the cup rattling to get some fundraising. Guys, the reason we have all these reporters out there, we got a fella full-time in Toronto now. Jeremy Borg is out there. We've got Will up in Edmonton. Jared up in BC, is because you guys have been subscribing. We're subscriber based. So I see Mike is looking to put $20 down on Colombia for being invaded. That's fine. But if he hasn't bought a subscription yet, perhaps he'd be better placed in there. We'll see. But check it out, westernstandard.news/subscription. Get past that paywall and help fund us to keep covering all these news stories as they break. And boy, they're breaking just hard and heavy and fast. The one Dave was mentioning, for those outside of Calgary, maybe not as familiar with it, but we've just had massive water main problems in the city for a couple of years now. It happened in the spring of 2024. This thing burst out in the west side of Calgary. It turned out the whole city had to go on water restrictions for just about the entire summer. Cost a pile to repair, all these news conferences and discussions, and this pipe was supposed to last 100 years, and it only lasted 50, and they were going to get all these experts in to test it and check it and do a report on it, which apparently they did, but then we kind of forgot about it. Well, lo and behold, a few weeks ago, bang, it burst again, which is even worse in winter, so people almost got killed. This thing was flooding roads. It was coming up like a geyser. And now that they're repairing it, word is coming out and they're trying to say, well, what happened to the report? What did happen to it? City council never got to see it yet. And it should have been just sitting on the city manager's desk or in a drawer for once, okay, it's kind of hit the fan. I'm just going to give it to the mayor because the mayor was demanding it. Mayor Farkas said, give us the report. What happened to it? They've dragged their feet all the way till today before even giving them the report that millions were probably spent to create that was supposed to answer some of these questions. And city council has to beg and fight and threaten to get it. Some heads have got to roll. This is nuts. And Paradoxy saying, thank goodness Gondek announced, what was it, $80 billion for climate crisis nonsense. Yeah, something like that. The last mayor, she was hung up on, again, a climate emergency and spending billions and billions of dollars on that. And she did nothing with infrastructure. And then for 11 years prior to her, Naheed Nenshi did nothing on it because nobody wants a water pipe. They want public art. They want a city park. They want to have nice, pretty things to talk about that they can put their name on. They can put a little bronze plaque or do a ribbon cutting or something. And these things, aren't water pipes don't provide that sort of goodness for them. So, either way, now it's still gushing. Calgarians are still on water restrictions, but some of the word out of the mayor's office with Jeremy Farkas, the mayor there, is that they're going to have to basically replace that entire line. It's huge. And this kind of speaks to the whole thing on city councils in general on two fronts. For one, city councils and mayors go way off into 100 directions of what they don't need to. They go into areas that aren't their jurisdiction. They waste time and money on stupid vanity projects. Somebody else was pointing out the library that was built in Calgary. I don't know what that cost, $200 million or something. And very few people go to it for two reasons. Because we don't really need libraries like we used to. Community halls and things fine, but not libraries. Books are kind of, and I love books, but they're going obsolete, guys. So who has taken it over? Well, it's basically turned into kind of a giant homeless shelter because the area they put it in is pretty rough. But that's where hundreds of millions went. Right now, I think people would rather be able to flush their toilets multiple times rather than have a big public library that only addicted people tend to go to. But this is what happens. But the other part is that relationship between the elected officials and the administration. And this applies to other levels of government too. The city manager, that's the one, he makes more money than any of the elected officials. That's the name that a lot of people, unless they're close watchers, don't even know who it is. It's Duckworth right now. And a lot of those other senior managers within city administration, these people, they're like deputy ministers in the provincial government. It's the same person. They stay election to election. People don't hear their names. They like it that way. They hide in the dark. They make six figures. They call the shots. And that attitude got so much worse when they had Nenshi was mayor. I remember that. I remember watching council meetings. If you wanted to see Nenshi scream at a council member in a council meeting, and it happened quite often, his eyes would bug out and everything. It was pretty comical to look at, actually. But it would always be if any of them dared question city administration. That was sacred. You don't dare tell them what to do. Well, wait a minute. That's exactly what you're elected to do, as a matter of fact. You're there to provide oversight. You're there to question them. Part of the risk, true enough, you don't want city council and mayor micromanaging things. It used to be for basement suites, for example, in the city, that every single application for basement suite went through city council. It did. The secondary suites, they called it at the time. That was a big debate. It took years of debate to take it from the point where you'd have a whole mayor and council discussing every single legal secondary suite application. While city administration was thrilled to see the mayor and council wasting all that time, pissing around in their meetings with that, and not paying attention to what they're actually doing and what they're not doing. And what they weren't doing was pointing out, as this report that finally just came out, which is scathing, saying that they've known for 20 years that this pipe is going to fail. But they didn't do anything about it. I guess they'll just kick the can down the road, hope for your money, and I'm sure there'll be a generous severance package if you get fired. That relationship needs to be rejigged in City Hall. Mayor Farkas has been interesting coming in. He really has, and seems to be coming on with an attitude of reform, and I hope he holds on to it. And that means fighting with city administration and ensuring that things are going to get done, that the city administration answers to him and council. And if not, fire them. Fire them. There are many administrators and managers and people who would love an upper, six-figure jobs with massive pensions and massive vacation time and heated parking spaces, and would do that job far better than the dead weight built up in City Hall. So let's hope that this comes to a head and that Jeremy's talk isn't just talking tough, provincially as well. And I'm not seeing it that much. And I know you get a new premier, you get a new prime minister. They don't want to go to war with the civil service, but you know what? You need to. You have to. I'm not sure where Mitch is. He's supposed to be here by now, but he did text a while ago saying he was going to be in. Hopefully it's just some tech problems. He'll come in soon. So let me talk about the issue a little bit with that as we're in that segment. So Mitch Sylvester is one of the principals of the Alberta Prosperity Project. And the referendum, it's been a long road to get there. The APP has been holding meetings. It's been gathering names. It's been, organizing, getting ready for this for years. And they've gathered the names of hundreds of thousands of people. It's something that's odd. So, and again, the legislation came along and it looks like the province underestimated or basically just wrote bad legislation, gave an out to allow the electoral officer to toss it into the courts rather than deal with it. So they basically, the provincial government was forced to bring in Bill 14, which fixed the legislation, which again, for all the people claiming Smith doesn't want this, I don't know. She sure did a heck of a lot of work to make sure it's possible. And then once 14 was through, over the Christmas holidays, quickly, the petition was approved. Mitch was told, I believe, that by January 2nd, they'd be able to start working on it. And they've gotten the people applied and accredited to be able to start petitioning last night at a town hall meeting, which was packed, I guess, up in Water Valley. Little tiny town of only a couple hundred people, had a few hundred people show up for the meeting there. And they started signing the petition. But there's some differences, and people who are interested in taking part in that should look at some weird stuff, kind of. And I was hoping Mitch would be able to come on to clarify some of that. So this can't go through, apparently, the Alberta Prosperity Project. It has to run through Mitch Sylvester himself as a proponent. I don't know. They feel that, or the legislation does say, I don't know, that it can't be a group. It has to be an individual. It sounds like it's just kind of semantics or something, but they do want to make sure that there's just no possible way for this to be declined or called unofficial or unacceptable or anything like that. So Mitch is now the proponent, and the site is stayfreealberta.com. That's where to go. That's where to get information on how to become accredited to petition and get, the petitioning forms, or find out the areas, the meetings and places where petitioning is going to be happening. And there's meetings. This is one thing the APP has done excellently with. Is holding hundreds and hundreds, I think thousands over the last few years of meetings. I've been a guest speaker at dozens and dozens of them. I'll be at one in Calgary in Queensland this Saturday. I'm doing one in Bentley on Monday. And then after that, I'm taking off to Arizona for a bit, but I'll still be supporting from afar as much as I can. But what a year we're heading into. I mean, history is getting made in Alberta this year. So there's never been an independence referendum in the history of Alberta. Never. This year it's going to be held. Will it be a winner? If people voted tomorrow, I've said this before, no, not a chance. Not even close. 30%, 35% maybe. Hey, don't dismiss that. That's a massive amount to start with. That's, 1 in 3 people saying, I've had it, I'm done, I'm ready to go, I'll vote yes. But there is still 65% of people who aren't ready to go yet. I like to think there's a good 20, 30% sitting in that bunch, but they need to be convinced. So now the campaign's on. You got 9 months to work on that. And the petitioning, they've got 4 months to work on it, just to clarify some of these timelines and stuff too, since I don't have a guest. They'll have 4 months to petition. And then they're supposed to get, I believe, 177,000 signatures in that time. They're shooting to get hundreds and hundreds of thousands, and I'm certain they will. And then it goes before the electoral office. Then they go through it. They scrutinize it. They make sure it was correct. Then they tell the premier's office, okay, this thing is passed. It's been proper. And then it's on the government to schedule a date for a referendum, which most people are figuring is probably going to happen in October. Now, we got other stuff with the opponents. They're getting worked up. They're seeing this is happening. They're seeing no matter what. I see Mike, with Freedom Honey pointing out, how do we deal with the shenanigans, the bad players trying to sabotage the campaign? And yeah, we've already seen that. We saw some people talking on Thomas Lukaszyk's little Forever Canadian site, talking about how they want to sign up and sabotage things, maybe pretend to get signatures, but never actually go to get them, or just sign up and take blank sheets and don't do anything. A few nuts are going to do that. They'll do a little bit of damage, and it's good to point them out just to stir people up on social media, just to show how unprincipled some of the opponents of independence are. As for how much damage they'd actually do, I don't think they could do much. So how to deal with it? Well, the bottom line is just overwhelm them. When 1 out of 100 people who have actually signed up and gone through the process and gotten accredited and started petitioning, 99 out of 100 are genuine. That 1% aren't going to be able to do that much damage. They're just wasting their own time and energy. In fact, energy that they would better be able to spend campaigning for the other side, if that's what they really believe. So, let them piddle around. I mean, you want to watch for them. You want to stop it. I worry about some of the other things. I worry about some of the other stunts that could be pulled off. And we're going to see it all in this next 8-9 months. One will be, and I think a danger zone, is the open microphones at town hall meetings. So people can go up and say whatever they please, as they should be able to. Now, if I were looking to sabotage, get up, take that microphone, claim to be a supporter, and say something absolutely horrific. Say something that will just mortify and horrify everybody else, and claim to be speaking on the behalf of the independence movement. That's how you can do a lot of damage. I guess I shouldn't be giving tips out to other people, but the bottom line is, if we're going to prevent these sort of things, we got to watch for it. If somebody gets up there and says, we want to bring back slavery or something stupid like that, whatever, there's all sorts of things people could say, right? The room has to denounce, take that person out of the room. And I'm not talking about assaulting them, but get them out and make it clear you are not welcome here. Whatever they just said, that is not acceptable. That's not welcome here. Get the hell out of here. We're here about independence, not that crap. It's funny. I had some discussion just this morning on semantics with people, because some people will say, oh, well, that's not free speech. Even if the guy says something beyond the pale, we should allow him to say it. No, you shouldn't. This is a campaign. Everybody has the right to say things, but they don't have the right to your microphone to do it. So that person can go out and say it down the street. It's not a matter of political correctness. It's a campaign now. All of those things are going to reflect on the whole movement. Kiko Stocks, one of the commenters there, said media will run with it too. Exactly. They're watching. They're waiting. So if some whack job gets up and says something beyond the pale, that's what they're going to report on. Something I've ranted a bit about, like last spring when the independence movement was going, really exploding. I did a couple of, I do interviews with people, ask whatever, wherever it might be. I did a long one with the Walrus, long one, scheduled time to sit down with that guy. And in the end of it, my name never came up in his big, long, extended piece even once. He dedicated 40 minutes talking with me. Perhaps I was just too boring to be worth quoting. Fair enough. I think the reality is he was hoping, because if you looked in his article, it was very, very negative. He was hoping I'd say something to be able to hang us with. And I didn't give him that, so I just didn't get in there. Likewise, when I was at a rally in Red Deer and I spoke with a person who was there from the Washington Post. And same thing, spoke for about 20 minutes with her. And then the Post put out a hit piece about the lunatics and so on the movement, and quoted a whole bunch of other people, and I never popped up. But the thing is as long as we're giving them, I guess, sane comments, they won't be able to write anything. Don't give them low-hanging fruit. Don't give them ammunition. Somebody came into an area, screamed, said something beyond the pale, denounce it, get past it, move that person on and out. And yeah, sure, some of the media run with it anyways, but you'll show no, we didn't put up with that. It's the same sort of crap like we saw during the convoy with the swastika flag that sprung out of nowhere. Nobody knew where it came from. A few pictures showed up and nobody else saw it. But of course, that picture is still used even today. These are the tricks they're going to do. We can't stop all of them, but you can try your hardest to counter them. Another aspect when it comes to moderating, Lil Mo, a commenter, pointing out too, too many people take the mic to air their personal grievances and waste everyone's time. And that's true too. That's up to the moderators in the room. The worst damage those people do, though, is typically just boring people and, wasting time. But at least it won't do heavy damage. Getting back to what I was talking about, a discussion I had online, I spoke with somebody who was using the term separatist. I just said, look, we're campaigning. Most independent supporters don't use that term. We use independence, we use sovereigntist, because there's negative connotations with separatist. You got to remember, we're thinking on the basis of a campaign. Are you thinking of winning or not? I'll say whatever the hell I want. He got all uptight, or she actually, and all wound up and called me all sorts of things. Said I was new to the independence movement. That was pretty funny, actually. Look, you can say whatever you want, but do you want to win or not? You don't hear the pro-choice movement saying they're pro-death or pro-abortion even. They say pro-choice because you get support with something that's positive. Tar sands. You want to know, as soon as you read an article or hear from an activist, if they oppose the energy development of Alberta, they'll say tar sands instead of oil sands. Little thing, minor thing, but why? Why do they do that? Because one's negative and one's positive. And it means something. It works towards something. So separatists, people think of Basque separatists, people think of Georgian separatists. They think of a lot of separatist movements, or even the FLQ in Quebec, where they get violent, where they blew people up, where they were crazy, where they were communist. Independence is positive. Sovereignty is positive. Separatism's negative. I'm not trying to nag people into political correctness. I'm just saying that this is the difference with this campaign. because this doesn't have a single leader individual speaking for the whole thing. This is a campaign of tens of thousands of Albertans getting out, volunteering, going to the doors. And a lot of them have never done it before. And they don't need to be perfectly politically correct, but I'm just passing along that we need to look at things from the lens of a campaigner, which means you always want to bring people into the movement. But if you're going to dig in your heels and give me the middle finger and say, I'm going to use that word as much as I want to and scream it from the hilltops, I mean, I can't stop you. You have the right to. But you aren't doing the movement any favors. Either way, these meetings, that's a good way to get people together and help train them. And there's a lot of that training. Somebody else, a commenter, had asked, I'll say it again. It's stayfreealberta.com. That's where to get the information on petitioning and how to do it and all of that good stuff. Again, I wish Mitch had made it, but apparently he's tied up. All right. Well, let's talk about some of the other stuff that's going on, though. As Dave said, so much going on in the world. Venezuela. That one's bizarre. And it's kind of funny watching the discussions going on between people throughout the whole thing. I think nobody's sane, but again, there's a lot of insane people out there, but nobody's sane would say Maduro was a decent person. He was a dictator. He was a criminal. He was a drug runner. All of that's true. Suddenly, though, I mean, I love some of the memes. The people who are holding the Palestine flags have now switched to Venezuelan flags. Oh, Maduro was a hero. He was brilliant. He was beautiful. The CBC called him a man of the people. Speaking of lunatics, our tax-funded trumpet for socialism, the CBC, called him a man of the people. He ignored the results of 2 elections. The winner of the election got put into exile. That is not a man of the people. But, and we're going to discuss that a lot more in the pipeline. We have Nigel and Derek and I sitting here, it's going to come on tonight. It should be fair game to discuss, though, whether Trump's move was the best move. I don't know. Most people on the right feel he did the right thing. Okay. Like I said, it's not a matter of thinking Maduro should stay in longer or that he was decent or anything like that, but just we got to watch some of the precedents get set when a country will pop over and take a leader out of another country. And it's not that it's unprecedented. This has happened many times around the world with many different countries before. So people have pointed out that under Obama's administration, he killed quite a few foreign leaders, actually. So killed them. Trump brought this one back for trial. What is going to happen over there? The thing, at first the way Trump was talking was like, we're in control of you now. We've got this country and we're going to bring it back to oil production and peace and prosperity and all the good stuff and apple pie. But the vice president's now in charge. Maduro's out, but what's changing exactly yet? I think a lot of people, again, they don't miss Maduro, but is anybody better in yet? So what's going to happen next? Is there going to be a coup? Is the government weakened that much? I don't know. But then the other people talking about, again, usually liberals, often people, and some on the conservative side, oh no, this is going to be a death knell for Alberta oil. All this oil is going to come on stream from Venezuela and nobody will want Alberta's oil anymore. Oh, spare me. Spare me. Guys, every oil expert who's come on already to be talking about these things. Venezuela is a mess. It's a basket case. That is a creation of socialism, which means that despite having the most oil reserves on the planet, their infrastructure and ability to actually get the oil out of the ground, dilute it, get it out to tankers to ship it around the world is a mess. We're talking at best 5 to 10 years before they really start getting it back on stream, and I hope they do. It's an energy source. The more energy for the world, the better, even if it puts a little downward pressure on the world price. 5, 10 years from now, who knows what other oil powers are going to come and go. We've seen these spikes up and down with oil producing countries and wars for the last 60 years. It's not going to change things. One of the things that is interesting, though, all the same, if there isn't trust for Trump, and if you really do believe that the reasoning, and maybe that played into it a little, basically what Trump is looking at is bringing in a diversity of energy sources to provide energy to the United States. You want more customers to bring it in. Well, cool. We should be looking then at diversifying our customer base out. And that's where we talk about getting a bloody pipeline to the West Coast. Holy cow, what a concept. Has anybody been mentioning this? Yes, we've been trying for 20 years in Alberta. And, Northern Gateway, that should have already been done. Trans Mountain, that should have been done by Kinder Morgan with no tax dollars involved. You just needed that dingbat Trudeau to get out of the way. Energy East, that could have gone all the way out there and could have been, look at that. We could have been exporting to both coasts, selling to whoever we please. India, by the way, because people say, oh, heavy oil is different. Yeah, India has some of the largest heavy oil refineries on the planet. Guys, it's not unique to Alberta. Lots of countries more than happy to get our oil, but we have to get it to them. Phillips Deb, a commenter saying, why is no one talking about the fact that Eastern Canada does not buy Alberta oil? Oh, we talk about it a lot. And that's what I just kind of mentioned. There is a lot of Alberta oil does get there. Ironically, the bulk of it goes over and then south into the United States and then back up into Sarnia for refining. A lot of it, but they also buy a whole pile of oil, yes, from Saudi Arabia, from Venezuela. Tankers come up and down the East Coast all over the place getting foreign oil in while we shut in Western Canada's oil in Alberta, which is part of why Albertans are pissed to the point where 1 in 3, and hopefully growing, more, are going to be looking to just say to heck with Canada. They've had enough of it. But what's going on out there too? As Dave said, I mean, we're joking about it. And Mike said, but where's Trump going next? What is going to go on next? Is he going to go into Colombia? Is he going to go into Iran or Greenland? And that one, I got to admit, it's got me a little stumped. Why? Why are you poking that hornet's nest? There's very little for strategic use of that spot. I mean, if it was some big world war, rest assured the American forces could come and just take that, the few developed spots of that island in a heartbeat if they felt they had to. Nobody else was setting up a base or something that was threatening Greenland. And it's not like Greenland has a whole pile of oil or fish or anything that really makes it worth taking. I don't get it. Though, I mean, I guess if I was the person who understood what Trump is going to do, I should be buying, lottery tickets or betting on racehorses or something. Obviously, I've got a brilliant ability for prognostication. All we do know is things are upset, unpredictable, and unusual going on right now. And then, likewise, so some people have talked about it. If Trump made a move on Greenland for some reason, like he's saying, though he says stuff all the time, that could undercut NATO. Because, we're going through Denmark and things like that. If NATO falls apart, Ukraine's in a big pile of trouble. I know there's people with different views on the Ukraine-Russia thing. Fine. But then look at what the Americans are doing as well. The ship Dave talked about that was intercepted with British help was bringing oil to Russia. So if they're cutting off energy exports to Russia, just what is going on? Prayer Handle saying Greenland has a lot of critical minerals. Yeah, a bit. Not enough worth turning the world upside down to try and take it, though. I mean, it'd be easier just to buy it off them. If they're mineable and worth it, just buy it off. You don't have to take them for it. Mike mentioning Freeland in Ukraine. There's just some other lunacy going on, too, right? Chrystia Freeland, candidate, for the leader of the Liberal Party, deputy prime minister for a long time, finance minister for a long time, Trudeau's right-hand person, that twitchy, tweaky, strange lady, is now, as a member of parliament, is taken on a full-time job as a close advisor to the president of Ukraine. Well, a couple of things. I don't care. Well, fine, they can have her. Gosh, if I feel sorry for them if they're trying to fix their economy up. Talking to the woman who ran Trudeau's finances for the better part of 10 years might not be her best bet, but whatever, take her. The thing that pisses me off is she's still a member of parliament. She said she's going to resign, but she still hasn't. She's still an MP. It should be instant. You aren't doing your job here anymore. Get the hell out. It shows the politics going on because Carney doesn't want to lose his basically majority. He can get anything done, with the NDP won't pull the pin. The Conservatives don't want to pull the pin the way the polls are sitting right now, but still he wants his majority and he's worried about that. So he's just saying, hang on to your seat in case we need you to vote for something. We'll get you out of there later. So now she's double dipping, staying in Ukraine full time, but taking up a seat for the parliament, which somebody should be representing that Toronto riding, and she's not doing it. Okay. So Mike, again, good comment-driven show today anyways. What's with the recall petition with Dimitrios Nicolaides? Yes. So that started. That was the first recall petition. That was back in October. So when the teachers were legislated back to work, all those poor darlings, you know, their 180 days of working for 120,000, rough life. All they got was a 12% raise. Oh, awful. So they got legislated back to work because they were striking and having a temper tantrum. Well, they had a temper tantrum with the rest of the unions after they got legislated back to work. And they thought they'd take it out on Nicolaides. And he was the education minister. So they said, we're going to recall him. We're going to use Smith's own legislation against her. We're going to trigger a recall. Okay. And they did. You see, the bar for triggering a recall was to put in $500 and write a 100-word essay on why you think this member should be recalled. That's it. That's the news, the legacy media, and political scientists and the rest. Dwayne Bratt, of course. Oh boy, this is putting Smith in trouble. Oh boy, she's got recall legislation going all over the place. They're going to take the government out of power. They're going to call an early election in spring to get away from the recalls. Well, we got 2 weeks left in the petition period. They've had months to work on this. Calgary Bow is where Nicolaides is. And that one was probably like one of the most doable they had because a lot of people were ticked off with Nicolaides. And it was a tightly won one between the NDP and the UCP. So now with a couple of weeks left, they need over 10,000 more signatures to get it done. They haven't even got halfway. They figure they've got about 6,000 signatures. There's no way on earth they're going to get 10,000 signatures in 2 weeks. In fact, if you've done these petitions, you would know about 10% of the signatures in those kinds of petitions get thrown out because they're illegible. Like you couldn't read it. The person didn't live in the writing. Lots of reasons. So realistically, they need more like 11 to 12,000 signatures more. And everybody who lit their panties on fire and tried to feel that, make the impression that these recalls were going somewhere. I've said it on this show before. Anybody who thinks that petitioning is easy has never actually petitioned before. Real petitions, not online petitions, not any of that crap. Going out, getting a physical signature, address, phone number, witnessed. Very, very hard. And they couldn't do the same thing that Fabio did with his Forever Canada petition. These are recall petitions. You have to have only people who live in the constituency working on it. So they couldn't flood it all with union members and just, cherry pick. They couldn't pour a pile of money into it. They had to get local organizers to hit the ground. Getting 6,000 is actually not half bad, but it's still not even half enough to recall Nicolaides. So now let's talk about that false rumor. And I've seen some people on the right, some of the usual chronic malcontents. Oh boy, Danielle's going to get unthroned. No, she's not, guys. Sorry, Cam. Not going to happen. If that one's not going to pass, none of them will. None of them will. I mean, they did one against Premier Smith and Brooks. Come on. I mean, they did it in High River. That was won by almost 80%. You're not going to get tens of thousands of signatures opposed to the UCP in those constituencies, and it's showing. It's not going to happen. Smith is secure with where she's sitting. The election will be in the fall of 2027. She's not running scared of these recalls. But it's good to see that blow up in their face. It's good to see not even the activists as we expect out of them, but as I said, the pundits, the political scientists, the rest who were saying this is really going to turn into something. These are people who never put their feet on the ground and worked on something before. So they didn't know how tough it really is. Or they just hoped, But, that's what hope in one hand and spit, or there's another term for it in the other, and see which one fills up first, or wish is the term that's often used for it. Doesn't change things. All right, well, thanks for tuning in to kick off this first one of 2026. Appreciate you tuning in. Make sure to watch the rest of our channels. We got Leah in the newsroom and others putting regular content up there. Dave pops in with news updates. The Pipeline, I should know. It's a show. It's our oldest show. That's going to be on tonight. Subscribe, like, share, all that. This is how we get the info out. As I said, legacy media, it's not giving you good information, guys. We've got it for you. So be sure to spread that good word. We can bypass it. We can get things done, and we can win the battles. So thank you again. We will see you all next week at this time.